Acknowledgements and give some thanks, first of all, to the Seattle Trade Development Alliance, our host and providers of the coffee. I'd like to thank the WSA and also Newport Technologies as well. Congressman McDermitt for joining us this morning. Seems like everybody we're thanking composes most of the audience except for the speakers here at this time. Hopefully that's going to change in not too long. India is quite a phenomenon. It's a huge country. It's starting to develop economically. It's becoming more and more established as a technology center, and all the preconditions of massive expansion in the wireless market are there. We have three speakers this morning who are going to talk about specifics of this market in a way that can hopefully help people take advantage of it. We are joined, first of all, by Sanjay Chitwani from Tonsei Telecom. We are also joined by Anand Divakar from EcoBridge and Karl Weaver from Newport Technologies. Our first speaker today is going to be Sanjay Chitwani, from representative of Tonsei Telecom. Sanjay has a stronghold on the telecom and wireless space, both in the United States and in India. He's worked in Silicon Valley, along with a lot of the carriers all across the country. He's going to give us a presentation today that will talk quite a bit. It'll give us an overview of the market in India, talk a little bit about the different companies that operate in the market, and some of the services that people are taking most advantage of. So I'll go ahead and let Sanjay take it away.
Thank you. Thanks, Jeff. Good morning, everybody. Sanjay Chitwani, based here in Seattle, originally Indian origin. So I know a lot about this space in India and been here and worked in this space in USA. We'll talk about India's mobile space in general, but also touch upon general telecom subjects and in how it compares with wireless and what are the avenues of opportunities in India, and share with you good folks here some numbers, but also really the facts and the message that this event tries to deliver, that the opportunities are tremendous and not to be ignored, and completely taken use of advantage of in the Indian mobile space. And I'll start right off. This is the agenda for today. I'll go over some of the month-by-month subscriber base, how it's been increasing over the last really just 6-7 years. We have seen a tremendous growth back home, and then compares how it compares with the fixed wireline, as well as touch upon internet and broadband subscriber base. Talk about the ARPU, the tariffs, how it affects the ARPU and the expansion of the mobile space. Touch on some of the specifics of SMS, what are the applications which are driving this market really, and therefore where the opportunities lie. And then towards the end, I'll talk about it used to be that India is a outsourcing powerhouse for the world, but now it's more of manufacturing also, rather than just the services and the back-end call centers. So the trend is I guess it's evolving. Even we still do a lot of other outsourcing and software, but it's more now manufacturing driven. Believe it or not, also some of it coming from our neighbors like China. And towards the end, I'll talk about what Tonsei is, what we do, and some of the related things over there. So I'll start off with the mobile subscriber base, and it's obvious that so first of all, we touched the 100 million subscriber base just a couple months ago, and we joined the couple countries who are really 100 million subscriber base in the mobile. So on a month-by-month basis, we have been averaging north of 5 million subscribers every month, and 2006 has been actually phenomenal. So now, as you can see on a year-by-year basis as well as month on the x-axis, it's been phenomenal growth every month. What's driving it? What are the components in this space? let's focus on the latest data we have available. So the total mobile subscriber base, total wireless base is 123 million. This is of latest September, and out of which total is 86 million GSM in terms of technology, and the CDMA, the good old technology used by the Army back in World War II is 36 million. So it's roughly it stands about 70-30% in terms of GSM versus CDMA. GSM is a standard worldwide accepted technology for the wireless protocol, and CDMA is proprietary technology, but it's more expensive. In some ways, it's better in performance in GSM, but as of late, slides. So and here's the ARPU slide actually, and ARPU has been really low in India as of late, especially as compared to in the last 5-6 years. So right now we actually rank lowest in.
Could you just tell me ARPU? What does it mean?
Oh, I'm sorry. It's the average revenue per user.
So that's the average revenue per each user that the carriers generate.
On a monthly basis.
Per month.
On a monthly basis. And we rank very low actually, about $8. But it's really not that low if you compare the average income of a household in India. But it's on the downward trend, as you can clearly tell from this picture. Obviously, some of the factors driving this are increasing competition and low tariffs in this space. I'll touch upon it again. And again, same thing, increasing subscriber base, increasing on this column, and then the low tariffs really driving the ARPU down. Some of the key players in the network operator side of the business, Reliance, which controls a bigger chunk, and then Bharti, Televachas are the new entrants. Made entry in actually last 3 years, and they control a quite good increasing proportion of the market there. So the new players. So the new players are to watch out for our Spice, Aircel, Idea. ARPU is over this SMS. SMS is really now the second largest thing happening in wireless space in India, above and beyond voice. Voice is doing its magics. We have seen the numbers, and I think the trend is only going to be on the upside. But SMS is the next thing to watch out for from my own
Does
research.
everyone know what SMS is?
It's a
Text
text
messaging, yeah.
Basically
Short.
text messaging.
Short
Hi,
text
how are you?
messaging.
Let's get together for Starbucks. This email, this more of email, but text message short, quick emails in a way you can think of. And they are cheap too. And this was driving the ARPU as well as the subscriber base in terms of.
They're moving to SMS away from their phone.
On their phone. On their
On the
phone.
phone. On the phone. On the phone.
Many of them really don't have a phone to begin with. So,
Yeah. Just keep going.
On your cell phone screen, yeah, and it costs about 10 cents per SMS. That's what T-Mobile, someone like that would charge.
Okay.
So the other value-added services are mobile data, music ringtones account for about 1 million downloads per day, believe it or not. It's actually an underestimate. I think it's more now lately, past few months, because we have about 100 movies a month in the Bollywood. This was really driving. So it's entertainment, it's sports, it's a lot of other social networking, business activities which drive these things. So like I said, mobile data, the demand revenue indicators are right here, at 4.3 billion additions per month, and landline calls have been flat. Demographics, so demographics was really driving. It's a youth market actually in India, like in many other countries I've seen, Korea, China, Taiwan, Hong Kong. But just because of the sheer population we have and the increasing middle class, which is really driving this. And the forecasts are 10 billion, and I think it's going to exceed that by 2010 with the trends we are seeing. It's a couple more. Again, so the latest investment figures in India, services but more manufacturing. The latest 1.1 billion Cisco. They just announced last month actually, networking business. Yeah. About Transay, we do research analysis about the mobile wireless space to overall telecom publications, contract work, consulting, everything. So you can some of the forecasts and some of the case studies on the website telecom.com. There's some newsletters also you can check out. This is WiMAX is what we are now coming out with the new newsletters. And yeah, one more. But keep going. List of customers. Quicker.
These are people who use your service of information
That's correct.
about what's going on and the trends and where
Exactly.
opportunities are.
Exactly.
Thank you very much, Sanjay.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is going to be Anand Divakar. Anand has been a consultant with Bearing Point and Deloitte, among others. His presentation is going to get into a little bit more of the detail about services, products, etc., that are being offered and utilized in India. I would say he has kind of the more fun presentation because it's the reason why people buy cell phones more than how cell phones work and all the other things that go with that. So without further ado.
Welcome everybody. Just to introduce myself, Anand Divakar. I'm a principal at EcoBridge Consulting. We're a small consulting firm based out of Bellevue. The type of work we do is generally targeted towards enterprise customers. We do process improvement, program management, e-commerce related stuff, risk management for corporations, and a whole bunch of other things. That's just a quick flavor. I'm going to be talking about opportunities in India in the mobile and the media space. Go ahead, next slide. As I go through the presentation, you'll see that I've mixed in information about challenges to American companies who are going to India or looking to go to India, and opportunities for the same companies. I'm also going to build on the presentation that Sanjay just made, so you saw some of the data that he presented. The first question I'm going to try and answer for you is, how did the market, the mobile market in India, get so large in just 6 years? This is one of the keys to understanding how to do business in India. The pent-up demand for phone service in India is huge. As Sanjay was saying, it took years to be able to get access to a landline, to get a new line in your office or your home. And people were just tired of waiting for a phone number year after year after year. So 6 years ago, in 1999, which is when the mobile industry started, as soon as the service was available, consumers and businesses got excited about it because the waiting time had pretty much dropped to zero. You could walk into a store, pick up a cell phone, activate it in a couple of hours, and you had a phone ready to go. No more waiting for 10 years. Huge difference. So in 6 years, the Indian mobile market has done what the landline service could not do in 50. So we have about 100 million subscribers and over now. And a little quote from C.K. Prahlad, I'll talk a little bit more about him later. Moving to wireless from nothing, as in no landline services or insufficient landline services, is easier than moving to wireless from strong tradition of efficient and ubiquitous landlines, which is one of the reasons why the US market is not moving as quickly as other countries. It's because we have such a lot of investment in fixed landline services. Go ahead. This slide, I would like to focus on this part over here. This shows the teledensity benchmarks across different countries. India is down here at the bottom. Teledensity is defined as the number of phone lines per 100 people. Okay? Sweden's at the very top with almost two mobile phones per person.
Is this, no, is this only mobile? Is this only wireless?
Yes.
Okay.
And India is down here, even though it's a much larger country than many of the countries up there. There's only 12 lines per 100 people.
That's actually phone
That
lines.
gives you an indication.
That's phone lines.
Oh, there's phone lines. Oh, okay.
That gives you an indication of how much potential there is for growth in the market size there. So even though we have achieved so much in the last 5 or 6 years, there's still huge potential for growth in the future. Go ahead. Some data on forecasts of growth in the mobile industry is expected to outgrow Russia. Russia is at 140 million. We expect to outgrow it by 2007. Today, 30% of the country has wireless coverage. The target for 2007 is 85% coverage with 250 million, which is bigger than the US. The target for 2010 is 500 million, which is probably going to be pretty close to where China will be around that time, maybe a little less. Some details about 3G, which is the next generation technology, which is much faster service, will support video and support faster data transfer. Trials are already in progress, and by 2010 we expect 21.3 million users on 3G. WiMAX is another 3G type technology, maybe higher than 3G as well. We expect about 30 million WiMAX subscribers by 2012. So as you can see, there's a technology roadmap in place that people are already anticipating and building out too. Carriers, handset manufacturers are already building in that direction. Application developers are already building in that direction. So there's a lot of work going on. And this last point here is, here's a couple of quick stories. Now this is the first slide where you'll see a little bit of a cautionary note. A couple of stories about what works in India and what's different about India compared to what you might expect in the US. Okay? Reliance started mobile service around the year 2000. And at the time, they were looking for handset manufacturers to quickly supply handsets so they could start deploying the service. They had negotiations with Nokia, Motorola, and Siemens and everybody else to get the phones into the country. And all of these companies wanted to set American prices, $200, $300 for a handset. Right? Reliance dropped all of them from the list. LG was the only company which agreed to negotiate and bring prices down.
Where is LG from?
South
LG
Korea.
is South Korea.
South Korea.
And so they chartered a couple of 747s, Boeings, and filled up the planes with boxes of handsets from LG and flew them from South Korea into the country. And the next day, these phones were out on the street. That's one story. The differentiator there was price. Okay, the one reason LG got their handsets distributed in India was price, and of course the quality was already good. The quality had already been checked out, and it was acceptable. Here's another story: missed call signaling. The point to this one is how budget-conscious Indian consumers are. Okay, subscribers to Indian mobile service have learned to use the system without paying for it. They will now send messages to each other, not on the phone itself, but using the number of rings before they hang up. So 2 rings means one thing, 3 rings means something else, 4 rings means something else, right? So they've learned to bypass the system and use the service without paying the phone company for it. Okay, not everybody does this.
It's like the electrical grid.
Yes, exactly. Not everybody does this.
Or the cable system, or the cable thing that hasn't been turned off when you move in.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a deal.
So this is kind of to bring together the points in my last couple of slides. Selling to countries in the third world, including India or China, requires a different approach in general. Okay, these are a few points which I pulled out from a book by C.K. Prahlad. He's a really well-known writer on different subjects. This particular book is called Selling to the Bottom of the Pyramid, and he calls that BOP, which stands for Bottom of the Pyramid. Here's some main points. Learn the messages to companies who want to sell in India. And the first point is learn to see that market opportunity at the BOP. Multinational companies typically do not target poor people. People who make less than $2 a day, that's not their target market. They go after enterprise customers, they go after people who are driving SUVs and who don't mind throwing $100 a month at a new service or handset or whatever it is, and who will happily change handsets every 6 months. That's not the way it works in India.
Charge American prices. It's stupid.
But
Yes.
the United Nations had a program, and the program was to make a low-cost handset for emerging markets, and Motorola bought into it in a very big way, and Nokia also bought into it. These were the two top companies in the world today in most markets. They bought into it, and it was United Nations basically program.
So just going to say to that point, Motorola is just coming with 8 phone models, and they're all targeted under $25 per phone for Indian market only. And they're manufacturing in India, like what Anand touched upon in one of my slides. They're setting a manufacturing plant. So started to happen, but only now.
It seems, I mean, for me, it seems just like the pharmaceutical market.
Yes.
You make American drugs and want to charge American prices in India, well, good luck, you're not going
Won't
to sell
it's not
it.
going to work. Yeah.
And you're going to develop another market, another production system, which is really,
That's a very good comparison. Excellent. Okay, so I inserted a couple of these slides for a reason. This cartoonist, R.K. Lakshman, has been working for the last 20 years, literally. He is in India what Charles Schulz is to the United States. He's won numerous awards. He is a legend in India. And his messages, based on these cartoons, are always very much to the point in terms of the political system and the reality of the differences between the rich and the poor. So here you've got, this is the character you'll see in all his cartoons, that's the common man. This is a minister, politician of some kind that's visiting a rural area speaking to villagers. And that's his message, right? So I'm not going to read it out to you guys, you can see that. And the point here is rural areas have been ignored for decades. Mobile technology for the first time gives the rural areas a chance to participate in technology and progress. Now here are some challenges which can be translated into opportunities by American companies, provided they're willing to be creative. So going back to the slide by C.K. Prahlad and the bottom of the pyramid, these are some areas where creative thinking is required. The Indian government has ignored these areas for a long time, but they're now beginning to open up and look more closely at how they can make improvements in some of these places. So helping socially backward classes, healthcare, education, economic development are big priorities. Infrastructure modernization as relates to brick and mortar infrastructure is very, very slow. It is actually cheaper to hire physical laborers who work with their hands than to go out and buy big monster trucks and bulldozers and stuff. That's one of the reasons why development is so slow, because you have armies of people carrying dirt on their heads rather than a bulldozer doing it much faster. There's political uncertainty. These are different aspects of it. Even though the government has opened markets, reduced taxes, there are still issues because there's not a lot of trust between citizens and the government. We've had wars in the past with Pakistan and China. Labor laws are still backward. And we have terrorism and sectarian violence, which is a threat on an ongoing basis. Consumers are demanding goods, but the culture is slow to change. We don't have the type of credit card penetration in India. So that would be a more direct approach for that. I'm sorry, I'm going to keep running here because we've got one more. I'm kind of the middle in the Oreo cookie, so I got to...
how about the best part?
Waiting for the dessert.
So here's another cartoon. Again, you've got politician, the common man, same cartoonist, R.K. Lakshman, and he's saying, no, we have not neglected just your region, we have neglected all of them.
Right.
You know, that's the message. The point here I'm trying to make is native industry is often the first to benefit from the mobile revolution, to the point you were making. Women entrepreneurs, microfinance, you know, everybody from a plumber to a cobbler has ability to access the markets and customers. And the Nokia Horizons newsletter, I would strongly recommend that. If you can get a subscription to this newsletter, there's a lot of information on different countries, Africa, India, China, what's being done in those countries with regard to microfinance, for example. Go ahead. Here are some high-level opportunity areas for American companies. I talked a little bit about credit card penetration. This is a huge opportunity area for banks over here to go in and help improve the system. One other point made by C.K. Prahlad, there's a concept called the poverty premium, which is important to understand. Poor people in India, even though they make less than $2 a day, still need to do things like borrowing money. Okay, when they borrow money, they pay an interest rate of about 600 to 1,000%. Okay, and that's because they do not have access to the big banks and the regulated official way of doing business. So they go to private money lenders and people who will actually talk to them and consider them. That's an opportunity for banks to get in. You know, if their normal interest rate is something like 10 or 15%, they could say, okay, doing business with someone who is poor is higher risk, so let's make it 25%. That's still a lot less than 600 and 1,000%. That's an opportunity, but you have to be able to think that way. So that's one example up there. I'll go faster through this, and I'm happy to talk to this offline. Media and broadcasting. Internet is taking off. New models for how information is transferred. All of this is in progress in India. We've got tons and tons of smart people who know computers and who know software. And this kind of stuff is exactly what to do. The telematics industry, there are opportunities for these categories of companies. Automakers, logistics, systems integrators, navigation system suppliers, embedded systems developers, software, digital map providers. There's a lot of opportunity in India right now around these areas. Go ahead. Thank you. Now, another challenge you're going to come across. As the outsourcing boom takes off, people in India are now getting smarter about patents and intellectual property. There's a lot of R&D money flowing into India from VCs over here, as well as VCs in India, as well as multinationals who want to do business in India. Reverse engineering is what they used to do in the past. They would take a product like Coca-Cola or an IBM machine or Microsoft software, and they would figure out a cheap way to come up with a clone built internally to do the same thing. That's reverse engineering. That's in the rearview mirror now.
So instead of R&D, it's what we call R&C, research how to copy.
That's one way to put it, yeah. And that's history. What they're doing now, going forward, is patents. The patent portfolio has grown of patents, and India and Indians in those research institutions have recognized that to make a dent in getting up the pyramid or climbing up the pyramid to the source of being the people in control of the software and the intellectual property, they need to own the intellectual property, not just let the multinationals pay them and then walk out again with the rights. Right.
Okay.
Here's a list of additional challenges. Price sensitivity, really important. I talked about that before. Here's some data on what products cost in India right now. SMS, which is the text messaging capability, only costs 1 or 2 cents a minute. Downloads are 4 to 10 cents a minute. You know, given these rates, you can't expect to charge or have American companies charge US rates in India and make money. Nobody's going to buy anything from them. So price is a very important point. Go ahead. Some other challenges, piracy and copycats, always going to be a challenge. Happens in the US, happens in Europe, happens in India, happens in China. Different levels, different extent. Handsets in India are low-end equipment, although that's changing and improving. One of the challenges in third world countries and marketing products there is take your best technology and figure out how to deploy it in third world countries. Deploying in third world countries does not mean give them outdated equipment. An uneducated person may actually have more use for video on their cell phones than an educated person might, simply because they cannot read or write, they cannot type an SMS, but a video they understand.
Are they done in English? Are they done in Hindi? Are they done in...
SMSs?
Yes.
Traditionally, it's been English, but Nokia is one of the manufacturers that is now building multi-purpose keyboards. So they're building keyboards for India, Africa, that's in progress.
But by and large, it's English, or what we call
One more
Polish.
cartoon. Again, the gap between development in the urban areas and the government. So they come in by helicopter, but these guys, nothing has changed. So they're still where they were decades or centuries ago. But they know that there's been a lot of progress, right? So they know, they can say, India's done a lot of progress, but hasn't impacted us.
That was India's shining, and the failure of that, and what Manmohan Singh did in that election,
Yes,
Right.
was really talking to those guys against the fence.
exactly right. Yeah. Some data and numbers, I don't want to dwell on this too long. Here's the size of the total mobile market, 7.4 billion. The total telecom market, so you can see mobile is already approaching half of the total telecom market, even though this market's been around a lot longer. This data, however, does include landlines, ISPs.
Now to introduce the man who probably needs no introduction here. He's our organizer, Karl Weaver of Newport Technologies. He's been a pioneer in the wireless area and an evangelist, as we've seen, to North American companies and people in Seattle and the Northwest in particular, saying there's lots of money to be made, often with products and services that you've already developed. Why don't you get after this market? So, Karl.
Good morning, everyone. Namaste. Sushravatam. Apkaisehe. My name is Karl Weaver. I'd like to welcome everyone this morning to my presentation here at the Seattle Trade Development Alliance. My presentation, which is called the Global Smartphone Revolution. Now, this afternoon's agenda will talk a lot about what's going on in the mobile device space and a little bit about the carrier space. Next. Now, the mobile device, it's already changing the basic way that people in the United States, China, and India communicate. However, the starting point of mobility is very, very different. Very different in each country, culture, and region. Therefore, smartphones and converged mobile devices are being demanded by our global mobile society as we look to integrate tasks, duties into the resulting mobile internet. Next. So I term India the IT super tiger. Next. So let's talk a little bit about India's wireless future. So essentially, we're looking at, by 2009, 24 billion wireless cellular market. That's incredible. Also, it could equal the U.S. market. That's actually 220 million subscribers, not 150. And the ARPU is as low as 5. It could be as low as 5. It's around 7 to 8 right now. It could be low as 5. And non-voice value-added services are growing. Ringtones. India's wireless market, it's much more advanced than people in the West realize and think. Indians sense that the cell phone is a 21st century business tool. Next. You can see here I'm talking about the leading mobile operators. Can you put that on? Is it on? Okay. So this is a GSM breakdown and this is a CDMA breakdown. As you can see, the GSM market is booming tremendously. And actually, this company here, Reliance Infocom. Reliance has a CDMA and a GSM network. But you can see the GSM and CDMA breakdown. Next. India's wireless subscribers. There are more than 4.5 million subscribers every single month. India is expected to be the world's third largest mobile market by the end of this year, behind China and the United States. Next. India has joined the elite 100 million mobile club. The only other countries are China, Russia, Japan, and the United States. Now that is extremely, extremely significant. There is no European country that has reached this level. And India has reached it in a matter of 6 years, starting around year 2000. Next. This is a little bit about the cellular infrastructure in India. Now, what you can see here is that Nokia has put a manufacturing facility in Chennai. LG has a manufacturing facility. Motorola has announced they're going to manufacture and invest in manufacturing of cell phones in India. Samsung is manufacturing. As you can see, these are Chinese companies. The mainland Chinese are coming in. The Taiwanese are there. These are the major investments that are going on there. Next. Let's look at the handset breakdown. CDMA, which means code division multiple access, and GSM, which means global
System for mobile.
System for mobile communications, or in the French used to call it Group System Mobile. That's what its original name was. Anyway, if you're looking at the situation, GSM is 80% of the market, CDMA is only 20% of the market, just like China. Now, if you look at the top brands, Nokia is the number one. You can see, let's go to the next slide. I want to focus a little bit about smartphones, because a lot of Indian people have asked me, and also a lot of Western people have asked me, does India have smartphones? You better believe it does. You better believe it does. BlackBerries have been selling into India for a number of years. Nokia is selling some high-end handsets. Some of these are being actually smuggled from Hong Kong and from Taiwan into India. They're considered high-value type of products. Companies like Wipro, Infosys, they are using these smartphones for their business executives for field force automation and for enterprise usage. PIM is very, very important. These are some of the companies selling smartphones in India. Next.
Will you take 1 second and tell me what a smartphone is?
A smartphone is what we call a converged device. It basically takes a regular cell phone, then a PDA-like function, which basically means the capability to do personal information management, and also the ability to send and receive emails.
Exactly like that.
That is a smartphone. That is a smartphone. Now, the youth market is driving India's mobile revolution. It is the youth market. And when you see here, you see the age groups, basically under 25 years old, 20, 24 years old. They do not want just low-end handsets, even though the average illiterate worker in India wants a low-cost handset. The youth of India, they want funky ringtones, they want multicolored screens, they want digital, they want integrated cameras. So you've got this low-end handset selling for about $25, but then you have this huge middle class of people saying, I want a smartphone, I want a rich feature phone. Next, let's talk about the prepaid cards. Now, like in China, like in many other countries, prepaid is very, very important because it's so easy to just buy a card at a kiosk, use it when you need it again, buy some more minutes. Make a call, you have more minutes downloaded into your handset. So, does anybody know this fellow here? Who is he? He's actually the cricket captain.
Sarab Ganguly.
It's not you.
No.
Yes.
Looks like me. I wish. he's a big sportsman.
Oh, he's a-
yeah. He's
Next, please. Okay, now, let's talk about marketing, let's talk about markets in India. Talk is cheap, literally speaking, in India. But how do you sell your mobile devices, your software? How can Seattle companies take advantage of selling your software and your hardware, but especially your software? And into the Indian market, it's called ABC, astrology, Bollywood, and cricket. These are the major things that are driving the mobile handset industry in India right now. Look at this SMS messaging situation. The next wave of applications in India will be delivered around content via video clips coming from Bollywood movies, and music coming from Bollywood. Next. Let's talk about mobile gaming, India's mobile rising star. Bharti has announced recently that they had 75 million downloads of music. 75 million. So music is a real key thing here, but also let's talk a little bit about gaming. This guy's pretty famous for, I think it's Paradox Studios here, but as you can see here, India's mobile gaming business represents approximately 5% of the world mobile gaming market. So there's an opportunity to sell still. There's also an opportunity if you wanted to work with companies in India for perhaps a little bit of outsourcing or at least collaboration in India. There's this opportunity. The gaming market is growing. As I said, India is a strategic opportunity, but it is also a competitor. And India and China will be the largest competitors for the United States in the 21st century. Next. Some value-added services. Coolpool, which is an interesting SMS messaging service for carpool. So you can use your SMS and you can get the carpool service and you can become a subscriber, and when you need the carpool, you can just send an SMS message and somebody will come by and you can join a carpool service. I think it's very creative. Now, Pro Music, again, I mentioned about the music situation, but they have DRM issues as well. Well, how do you pay for the music? Well, fortunately in India, Motorola and Nokia are using basically what they're trying to do is buy the ringtone songs, and Motorola has a pay one time, Nokia has a buyout for rights of songs. So they're both trying to get the songs on the mobile devices before you buy it, so you can have the song there already. And then you can either download wirelessly, download through the internet, or buy additional ringtones, what we call color ringback tones. Next. Now, cell phones. They are made in India now. Cell phones are beginning to be made in India. Samsung is making them, or essentially assembling them, and shipping them to Dubai and other other African, Middle East, and Asian markets. LG has been doing a lot of work there. Now, design houses, companies that actually do the design of the handsets, they're starting in India. You've got Quasar Innovations and BPL. They're actually making mobile devices in India right now. Next. Now, this is a slide that I use quite a bit to explain really what's going on in this whole mobile handset industry. Nobody makes mobile handsets in the commercial sense in America anymore. Nobody. They're all made offshore. They're all made offshore. The major labels take them into Asia, usually Taiwan, China, or South Korea. In Taiwan's case, now, what we're talking about here is these are ODMs, original design manufacturers. They designed for these guys. They have taken the manufacturing into China, and they've taken now the manufacturing into India. That's the evolution. So the evolution is morphing basically, actually, from here now down to here, and from here directly to here. Next. Handset manufacturing, as you can see, when India starts to produce semiconductors, that's when the entire industry will be able to grow rapidly, because you need to be able to have, from the chip level, the capability to manufacture, to control much of the R&D and technology. Although India does do a lot of semiconductor R&D, they're not doing the fabrication of the silicon. It's still being done mostly in Taiwan, China, a little bit in South Korea. Next. So, does anybody know what Bangalore means in Hindi? What does Bangalore mean? Does anybody know? Bangalore means bag of beans. Bangalore, with Chennai, with Pune, and with Mumbai, are going to be the major places for cell phone production, R&D, and distribution. And that's essentially along the middle tier of the country. That's where the major R&D is taking place. That's where a lot of the manufacturing is taking place. And fortunately, Mumbai on the left and Chennai on the right are seaports. So it's strategically placed, but IT is in Bangalore. And India still plays a critical role for the software. Now, Washington state companies need to figure out where Bangalore is and figure out how to get there. All right, let's move on. CDMA and wireless local loop. Well, what is wireless local loop? It's basically